Good evening, IB Juniors. I'm going to go over what you need to do in order to get 100 on your second draft of your works in translation. So this is the checklist that I uploaded earlier. I've made a few tweaks to it this evening, so if you printed it out earlier, please make sure that you look at it and make sure it is the same one that is been updated. I'm actually going to make this due on Saturday, June 8th at 10:30 a.m. That gives you a little extra time. Um, in addition, I'm not going to look at it until probably about 10:30 anyways on Saturday, so that gives you some time in on Saturday morning to do your last minute tweaks, and so you don't have to stay up as late. So the electronic copy needs to be uploaded to revision 3. And if you look at turnin.com, revision 3 is here. So please make sure you submit it to the correct one by 10:30. Let's see. Make sure you're looking over your MLA formatting, your paper, and here's an example paper right here. You will need to make sure that the margins are 1 inch, no more, no less. It needs to be double spaced. You should be using Times New Roman, font size 12, and there should be a header for all pages now. So this works in translation example can be found on the classwork page and under the works in translation post. It is right here. You can use that as a template, and it also goes over all of the details. So the information that you see right here talks about what it should look like exactly. So for your second draft, I need to see a title page. And the title page doesn't need anything fancy on it. You will have the work title here. If it is Oedipus Rex or if it is the reader, it should be in italics. If it's the Inferno, that should be in quotations. And then have a colon, and then have your awesome title in all caps. This should all be all caps. Go, I don't know, 5-6 spaces below it. Don't change any of the font. Write your name, write works in translation, and write the word count. That is all that goes on the title page. Next step would be to do the header, and you can insert header page number, and I selected this one right here. That ensures that there is no number for the title page, and it's only for the body of the paper. Also, you will also need to write your last name right here. So it would say Jones 1 is what it would most likely say. Let's see. I think that's all. You can read through that, and if you wanted to, you can make a copy of this and copy and paste your paper into it if you want to make it exactly like this. It's up to you what you want to do with this, but this is just an example of what your paper should look like. My name should not go on it. The school name should not go on it. Only the items that you see there should go on it. That is part of your MLA formatting. It's also important that you have a works cited page or a bibliography. A works cited page is if you actually cited material within the paper, then it's called a works cited page. If you're just using the book and you didn't actually have any quoted information, then that would be a bibliography. So make sure that page is correct. You can have more than just the work, but most people will just have the work itself. You need to have a minimum of 1,350 words this time, so you're just adding about 150 words, and this is not 150 words of pure fluff. This is 150 words of more details, maybe add a paragraph, something more to support your ideas in the paper. You also need to have a definite thesis, body, and conclusion. It has to be a very clear organizational pattern. When you are writing it, please make sure you have transitions or that they are strong transitions. Things like first, secondly, finally, those are considered very weak transitions. Try to come up with something that relates each of the paragraphs. Additionally, make sure that there's one idea per paragraph. I see a lot of huge paragraphs that have very related ideas together, but they're separate ideas that need to have their own paragraph. So please make sure that you do that. Also included this is that you need to have an approved thesis, which you should have already had for the first draft. But if you didn't, that is included within this. The paper needs to be entirely error-free. If there is one error in your paper, I take 10 points off. So it needs to be thoroughly proofread throughout it. So please make sure, most of you did a pretty good job with this, but some of you need to proofread your paper. Since this is the second draft, if there is one error in it, then you didn't really read the paper. I suggest that you read the paper out loud to yourself, and this is when you're going to find a lot of the errors, because you're looking at this paper over and over, and a lot of times you won't see the errors because you're getting used to it. But if you read it out loud, you'd be surprised how many things that you can find. It's also important to remember that when you're writing a literary analysis, you must write in the present tense. Some of you did it, some of you didn't. Some of you mixed it up and did something a little bit of both using past and present tense, but you must always write in present tense for a literary analysis paper. So that is part of the electronic version that needs to be done and submitted by Saturday on June 8th by 10:30 a.m. So the next thing that you need to do is you need to make sure that you go to the comments from your first draft, and it needs to be submitted to me by 12:30 p.m., which is an exam day. So if you could literally just go into school tomorrow, go to the library and print it off and just give it to me. And then that is, then you have it, and that's just 10 points right there that are given to you. That is so that I can see what you did that needed to be improved, and if it was improved, and it kind of helps me with the next feedback, because your next draft is coming after that, which is your final. On Monday, June 10th, you will be submitting to me by probably, I would say, about 1:30ish, but that's also an exam day, so keep that in mind when you're doing this, that I need to have an obviously edited copy of your first draft. That means you print out your first draft and you mark it up in pen and showing me that you actually read it and edited it. This cannot be done electronically. This has to be printed out and done. You will also need to print out a hard copy of your second draft. That will be due in class as well, and you're going to attach the checklist that you see here on top of it, and then you're also going to put the edited draft behind that. You will also need to submit a 1 to 2 paragraph reflection on how you improved your first draft based on my comments and your own proofreading. You will be signing this, your parents will be signing this, and make sure you initial this and make sure this is completely filled out when you submit everything on Monday for your hard copies. I want you to keep in mind that I am going to make all of the final drafts due on June 12th, and I'm going to put the final draft checklist up probably tomorrow as I finalize everything and get everything done. So keep that in mind. The idea is that your second draft should just be kind of touching up what you need to touch up, add a little bit more. You should be basically finalizing your paper, so by the time you get to that final draft, you're just polishing. You might be adding a little bit more support here and there, but you should just be polishing it by the final draft. You shouldn't even need a couple of days to do it. You should be able to just take your feedback from the second draft and move on with it. If you have any questions, please email me about it. Please keep on emailing me if you have to have your thesis approved. Keep working on it. Most of you are really close. So please don't get discouraged. And I'll get the thing for the final draft up probably in the next day or two.